Well, I guess we can get started. We're going to have a multimedia presentation.
He says it's coming in a minute.
Equipment. So I'm going to have to make do with little bits of printouts, and I'll have to show you these. Unfortunately, I'm sorry about that. What do we do with modern society? Okay, so I'll introduce myself first. I am Professor Declan late of the Oxbridge University. I'm an anthropologist, and I've been doing mainly research in animism. I don't know if people know what that is, but I'll explain that a little bit later on. I'm very happy to be here. I'd be happier if we actually had the equipment to show you my slides and things that grad students have worked so hard on, but oh well. And yeah, it's very good to see such a large turnout. I worried for a moment that I was actually in the wrong sort of expo. I mean, people dressed up as Daleks and things. I don't know. I was actually expecting it was the Folklore Academics Network Expo. And, but still, you know, I explained to some people who I met at my booth earlier on that really modern folklore is comics, films, interweb stuff. And so that does tie in quite well in a sort of weird way with what I deal with, which is actually your classic folklore, symbolism. And how that is all connected throughout the world, to be honest. So that's a little bit about me. As I say, I was employed until very recently at the Oxbridge University. Unfortunately, while I was out studying and researching in a little place called God's Lake, I was let go from my university. Very disappointing to me. Unfortunately, they also didn't allow me back to pick up my research. And this is one of the reasons why I'm here. And as I explain more and more of what I do actually look at, and I can explain what I'm hoping that you people and people that you talk to will be able to do to help me gather my research from places on the internet. I'm not expecting you to go out digging up old ruins for me. I can do that. And I actually have people who do that for me if I don't want to. But I do need people to go out on the internet and reassemble, if you like, my research, and also find out what the hell happened at God's Lake that got me fired. My university, of course, said that I was not following research guidelines. Hogwash, that's what I say. It's very hard to follow research guidelines when you're out rummaging about in the back of nowhere, under trees and old ruins, and picking up little pottery shards and trying to interpret what they are. It's much easier to follow research guidelines if you're actually sitting down in a nice comfy chair in the room of academia, chugging your way through glasses of sherry and waiting for the next cake trolley to come along. But we don't all want to do that, obviously. We want to find out stuff and get it to our research and expose it to the general public and let them find out how they can explore their world through new eyes. That's what I really do. Or explore new aspects of their world through old eyes, if you like. That's folklore. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get back onto it. I've worked in many places in the world. One of my greatest discoveries was at a place called Angkor Wat in South America, where I actually discovered in the format of the cruciform terrace outside. I think I've got a little picture here somewhere that I can sort of pass around. Oh yes, here we go. This would have been on a screen, of course, if this had been properly organised. But I can show people this. What you'll see there is a ruin, Angkor Wat ruin. You'll see there's the terrace here, it's in a cruciform format. And there were many very interesting things about this. It was, there was a certain asymmetry based at the, not as you would think, on the cardinal points of the compass. But I think I might be able to, if I've got, have I got any markers?
Yes.
I might be able to illustrate it on this picture now. We can pass it around and you can have a look. But in most, like Stonehenge, if you like, all points to the sun at a certain time of day. Other Inca and Mayan ruins, they have their points, looking at the cardinal points of the compass. This was very interesting in that there was an asymmetry at certain points on this. These points, there were actually pits dug there, 17 feet deep and 1 foot wide, all the way down, which we extrapolated could raise pillars, wooden pillars or posts, up to 60 feet high at the, not as I say, at the secondary point. So northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, rather than north, south, east, west. And that was very interesting. There was a join up at the bottom through the thing. We actually found a strange pathway through the bottom of the item. And if you tie all that in very closely, you end up with a very interesting... Oh, yes. Yeah. I can see where that might be amusing. But I think you can get my point, is that it's the tie-in, you know, it does, I'm not sure if I could illustrate it now, actually. But what we discovered was, because of these asymmetric markings, because of this northeast, northwest, blah, blah, blah stuff, and because of symbols we found on certain of the buildings, that this was one of the major sacred sites in South America. This is just to illustrate, so I'm not going to go too much deeply into this, but it was one of my greatest discoveries, and you can actually read about it in my book, if you can find a copy, The Sacred Trees, which is a tie-in with aspects of triple deity. Am I reaching people here? But anyway, yeah. If you look at it, you could probably get it on Amazon, maybe. But most of the copies were actually bought by students, and they probably kept them because it is a very useful thing if you're studying anything to do with anthropology. Excuse me. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. Now, you may have heard of the Da Vinci Code. Hogwash. Complete crap. Not the way that Dan Brown researched it. Everything else, garbage. But Dan Brown's research knowledge, and the things that were shown up in the book as techniques, we use all the time. Finding different symbols, different stories, different ceremonies, and finding connections to them. And that's many things. I mean, he was talking about the V of being between Jesus and John, the disciple. Oh, he said it was Magdalene, but just because he doesn't have a B, it doesn't mean it's a woman. But then that's the crucible, the V, the symbol for things. But as I say, findings hogwash, methodology spot on, and that's what I do. The reason that I was in God's Lake before I was unceremoniously bundled out by security forces at the behest of a certain major corporate entity that I won't go into, but you can find hints to it in the website that I've set up, that my grad students have set up, that I will be pointing you towards later. But when I was there, I found, I believe, categorical proof of an event that is coming to the world, to this site, in the not too distant future. Let me take you through a little bit of that, I think. Just organize my bit of paper. So, one of the major patterns of communication in older societies, especially ones that don't have necessarily writing, don't have, obviously, phones and radio waves and stuff like that, was by leaving symbols. I think you could look up in the Arctic, and you'll see the little stone built up in the shape of men, little men, to say we have been here, this tribe is here. In other places you would see carvings on trees. And this was actually a tree that we found with very, very important symbols carved into it. No, why don't I pass this around? You can have a look at it while I'm talking. You can just pass it on. But you'll see that there are definite symbols. I made sketches of these. The first one of importance, I believe, is, and this is one of the theories that I've worked up about symbols, is the gear. I think I spoke to some of you earlier on about this. The gear is basically denotes industry. Now, it's a very modern symbol because now we have gears that drive machines, that drive industry. But if you think about it, what is the oldest industrial invention that has been invented, if you like? Any thoughts?
Water wheel.
The water wheel, even older. The wheel. The club, yes, maybe not. Perhaps after they'd invented the wheel, somebody wanted it, then... No, the wheel, which is basically a circle. But it's industry, it's what invented industry. It gave you the opportunity to move things, to build things. And a gear is just a modern interpretation of this. Now, for those of you who are looking at the picture, and you'll see this a bit later on, of these things, you'll see that there is a gear. You'll also see another symbol on there, which is, it's basically the sun sign. And the sun is a very important symbol in primitive society because the sun, what does the sun give us? Light. The sun feeds plants. Plants feed animals. Plants feed us, animals feed us. The sun is a symbol of life, and therefore nature. There's not a true connection between the sun and nature, but this symbol that we discovered is actually the sun with what looks like a hole in it. But what's even more important, if you look at it, perhaps it's the sun with something in front of it. And not necessarily the moon. In an ancient society, the moon would not have been that, would not have had that sort of importance to them, or that be important in that way. It was important, but perhaps the earth. So you have the earth imposed on the sun, the earth taking from the sun life. The earth is life. So we have earth, and we have the gear. Life or nature, gear or industry. Now what was always on the picture that we had, why don't I pass this one that way? It's the same picture, but it's you'll see the gear, the symbols that are carved on that tree. In between these two symbols is a third symbol. Arrows. Arrows heading outwards. Arrows could be related to compass.